What's up, guys? So today is actually, and this was not planned. I had no idea this was a thing, but it's Google's 27th birthday. So on the day of their birthday, we're actually going to clone the Google homepage. Just a simple, fun little project we can build together. So this is what it looks like today. Obviously, the logo is different, and they have this text here. This is what we're going to build. This is the clone that we're going to build. So obviously, normally it's this logo, right? And then you'll notice some of our icons are going to be a little bit different than theirs because, well, really just the AI mode icon. Oh, and the images picture icon because we're just going to use free icons from Font Awesome to build this. We're not going to, pay money to get certain icons, but everything else is going to be pretty much identical here. So to what it should be. And we're doing our Google homepage from the aspect of you're not signed into your account. So we're just going to have the sign in button over here, and then it looks just like theirs. Obviously most people, you have your menu where you're always signed into your Google account and your little logos here and all that, but we're doing it from the not signed in aspect. But yeah, kind of a funny coincidence. I got on the Google homepage to start recording the video, and it was like, oh, it's Google's birthday today. And I was like, no way. So, quick story, I actually do remember Google, like using Google for the first time. I legitimately do remember when it first came out. I think I was like 8 or 9, and I was in, I think was it second grade? No, I was in like fourth grade. I was a fourth grader in the early 2000s. And we had this science teacher, or the guy, it was the other fourth grade teacher, but he taught us science. And then our class went to our teacher to do math, like specifically, because that was their specialty or something. And his name was Mr. Heights. And Mr. Heights was actually tall, so that was kind of funny. He was a tall, skinny guy. And we were looking something up on the internet, and back in that day, I don't remember if it was like, I think Netscape was like the big search engine that everybody used, or Yahoo. Netscape and Yahoo were around, and Google was still brand new. And we were trying to look up a piece of information, and the teacher was like, no, guys, there's this website called Google, and it actually, like, it's the best. Like, it gives you exactly what you want, like, every time. Because back in the day, you could type in something, and you would just get random list of, like, links to random websites. And Google was, like, the first search engine to really zero in on, like, what's their intent? Like, what do they want to do? We got on Google. I don't remember what specific thing we were trying to look up. We were, like, doing some kind of project in the class. And sure enough, I remember, like, typing in what I wanted, and, like, boom, like, the information that I wanted on the actual topic I was searching was there. And it was like, whoa. And not only that, but there was like 10, the whole pages thing. There was like 10 results of all stuff that I wanted that Yahoo and the other, like, search engines at the time. Oh, there was Ask Jeeves. That was a big one. I don't know if you guys remember Ask Jeeves. They were not giving you those, like, precise results. And that's why Google took off, dude. They were the best. Like, from day one, they were the best at search. And then, we all know what happened from there, right? But anyway, end of the story. I thought it was kind of a cool story. I actually do remember using Google for the first time. And then, after that, everybody just used Google, right? Really quick, guys, before we get started, if you are interested in becoming a full stack web developer as fast as possible, and you're sick of being caught up in tutorial hell, you keep watching tutorial after tutorial, and you're just really not getting the concepts to hit into your brain, check out my complete web developer course. It's completely 100% project based. I take you from HTML to CSS to JavaScript to full stack PHP, where we learn MySQL database and we can build full stack applications. 100% project based, no fluff, no theory. It'll make you a full stack developer as fast as possible by just teaching you everything that you need to know. And that's it. No more than that. The whole course from zero to full stack is around 37 hours, so you can get this done in a couple of months. You can subscribe every month for just $20, or just buy the whole thing for a one-time price of $99.99, completely up to you. If the course isn't your thing, or you're not looking for a course, I do have a free practical web dev roadmap that will tell you step by step the exact steps you need to take to become a profitable web developer as soon as possible. Link in the description for that for both of those guys. Check the description. At least get this freebie. It's well worth the read. It's not super long, but it will help you in your journey. It could take years off of your learning because if you're not doing it right, you're going to get stuck and you're going to get caught up like a lot of other people, and you might end up quitting. We don't want that. So check this out. All right, guys, let's get started. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and get started. Let's set up our files. Let's build this out. It's not too complicated. There's not too much to it, so let's just get this done here. I already have a project folder that I created on my desktop called Google Clone, and I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code to build this project, so I'm going to open up a new window in VS Code. And to open up the project, I'm just going to drag my folder in here. All right, so now we got Google Clone. And let's just start setting up our files that we're going to need. So we're not going to need too much, just HTML, CSS, and an image folder. So we'll do our index.html, and then we'll do another file, and we'll do style.css, and then I will need a image folder. So I'm going to click the new folder icon, and I call my image folders IMG. You can call them image, IMG, whatever you want. We'll get our HTML boilerplate code set up. So I'm going to do shift !tab. That gives us our beginner HTML code that we need. And then in our document here, the title, we're just going to say Google, because that's what the normal Google homepage is. It just says Google. And then we'll go and we'll link our CSS style sheet. So we'll go below our last meta tag and above the title. And we'll put a link tag here. And we'll say style.css. And now we can make sure that our CSS and HTML are connected by testing it. So the first thing I'm going to do in my CSS folder is I'm going to do what's called a CSS reset. Browsers like Google and all other modern browsers have default margin and padding on their pages, and we want to get rid of that so we have full control of our design. So I'm gonna hit Shift and 8, which will give me an asterisk. In programming, the asterisk means select all. And we're basically selecting the whole page, and then I'm going to say margin 0, padding 0, box sizing, border box. And then we'll do like an H1. We'll select an H1 that we haven't made yet, and we'll just say color red. And then we'll go to HTML, and we'll say H1 test. And this is just a test that our CSS is connected. We want to make sure that's good to go before we keep going here. So let's click Go Live, and that'll give us our page, what we're building live, and it'll update every time we save. If you don't have Go Live and you're using Visual Studio Code, the live server down here, you can click on the extensions icon and just type in live. And then live server is right here. It's the first thing that pops up. It'll say install for you. Just go ahead and install it, and then you'll be able to do the same thing that I'm doing. I don't want to make this like a whole Visual Studio Code tutorial. Like 99% of people use it to code, so I'm assuming you know how to use it already. So we're not going to get too much more into VS Code features here. But anyway, so we can see our CSS is connected here. Now we have to get we're going to get the Google font that Google uses, and for most of its stuff, they just use, if we right-click and inspect to open up the Google Developer Tools, and we hover, I'm pretty sure they use Roboto, yeah, so they use Roboto with Arial fallback for pretty much everything. Let's see, all this in. So this side is supposedly Roboto, and then this over here is supposedly Arial, so I'm just going to use Roboto for everything because they're pretty much the same. So we'll just go ahead and grab Roboto from Google Fonts. So let's go to a new window here. We'll type in Google Fonts and make sure that you're in the fonts area over here. And we want Roboto, which is I'm pretty sure that's like the most popular font today. Anyway, I use Roboto a lot in my projects. It's just very clean. There we go, Roboto. We'll say get font, get embed code. We'll just grab all of that here, click copy, and then we'll paste this above our style sheet. That's a Roboto code that'll connect us to the Google Font API. And then we need to get the actual font family here. So make sure you get the CSS font family that we need to bring over, and we'll put that we'll say below here, we'll say body, and we'll just paste it in here. The whole body, the whole page is going to have the Roboto font family. So if we check our page now we're in Roboto, okay? So we can get rid of the H1 color red, and we can get rid of the H1 period because we don't need to be testing stuff right now anymore. And the other thing that I want to do is we're going to need to get a few icons as we build the project, mainly for the search bar here where we have this camera looking thing, we have AI mode. So to get that, we're going to use free fonts from a website called Font Awesome. So we'll go ahead and we'll say Font Awesome. And guys, if you've never used Font Awesome before, it's a really cool website. If you hit the search bar, it just gives you free icons that you can use, tons of free icons that you can use on websites. And a lot of like professional websites and big companies use them. You actually use Font Awesome icons. This is how you get little icons for your web page. If you've never signed up, you'll click on the in the top corner right here, and it'll say sign in or sign up. Just go ahead and sign up. It's like signing up for anything else. Give them your email and whatever. And then it'll take you to something called kits. And then it'll say add a new kit. You'll click add new kit. And then all a kit is, and this is what yours is going to end up looking like. A kit is just like the code like we just did with Google Fonts that you can copy and paste into your web page and get access to the fonts. That's all a kit is. It's just a little link that links your website up to Font Awesome. So I'm going to copy mine and I'm going to put it above my style sheet and like in the middle of the, actually I want to put it right here. I'll put it above the CSS, below Google Fonts. That's my Font Awesome, what they call a kit, just a little piece of code. So now just to show you, if we go back to Font Awesome and I select an icon, so I'll go to search. I'll just select any icon really quick, like this house. Copy it, and then if I paste it here into the body and we go and I save, now the icons are working, so we know Font Awesome is there. See that? But we don't need that house. That was just to show you guys, so let's get rid of that. Next, we're going to need a few images, and we're going to need to set up our Favicon, which a Favicon is the icon up here, so that when you're in the tab, like it's got the little logo, the little Google logo. So to do that, we're going to go to, we'll just type in Google logo on Google search. And we want this G right here. So let's copy that. And then I'm just going to right click, and we might want a bigger one. That one's only 250 by 250. This one's better, 512 by 512. So we'll select this one. I'm going to say save image as, and this is going to end up, we're going to make the Favicon up here in the corner just like the real Google. So in downloads, we'll say Google -Favicon. We'll save it in my downloads folder. And then what I'll do is I'm going to go to another Google tab, and I'm going to type in Favicon generator. And I'm going to go to this website here, favicongenerator.net. And this just helps us get favicons and put them in our website. So I'm going to click pick your favicon image. And I'm going to select the Google Favicon image I just downloaded. Okay, and then once you select it, it uploads it to their little database, and then it says, hey, this is like what your Favicon is going to look like. That looks just like pretty much the Google one. So that's good enough for me, right? So I'm happy with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here, scroll down to next, and then I'm going to say, it says download your Favicon package. I'm going to click download. There's my Favicon package. So I'm going to click in here, and then that's going to open up my file explorer here on Mac. I'm on Mac. If you're on Windows, obviously you'll be in your downloads folder, your C drive, whatever you use. This is the Favicon folder I just downloaded. And then the only one that it gives you one for Apple Touch, ICO, SVG, gives you all these different Favicon or little icons. The only one that we need and that we're concerned with is Favicon -96 by 96. So I'm going to grab that and drag that over to my images, and I want that in my image folder, okay? And then I'm going to also get this little snippet of code that we're going to put up in our head of our document, and it's this one right here, 96 by 96. This is like another link tag, so just select the link tag that has Favicon 9696, should be the first one. Go ahead and copy that, and we're going to paste it into our HTML. And this is going to help link your image to actually be the favicon. So we can put that up top here. I'll make it my first link. And now in our href, instead of /favicon-96-96, we have to actually go to our actual file, our img folder, where it is, and actually link to our image. So we're going to say image. It's in the image folder, and it's favicon 9696 PNG. And then we're going to save. And then if we look now, look at that. We've got our little Google favicon. Okay? So there's ours. There's the real one. It's a little bit bigger, but that's good enough. But that's how you get favicons, guys. So that, if you didn't know how to do that, there's a new skill that you've already learned already. Next, we need to get the Google logo for like this area here, for like that goes above the search bar. Now today, it's kind of different because it's like a special one just for today, because it's, you know, again, just by coincidence, it's their birthday. So they're throwing it back to the old 1998 logo. I didn't even remember Google looking like this ever. I think as when I started using it, it was always the original one like this. But to get the Google logo, it's already here. We've already searched Google logo, and this one I'm pretty sure is like a one that's good to go. It looks like it's transparent. So you can just right click, save image as, and then you can, I would save it as like Google-search-logo. Okay. And then, yeah, it looks like it's transparent. So I'll just put that in my image folder as well. So I'll go down and I'll say, let's get my file explorer up here. And then there's the Google search logo. So if we drag it into so maybe it's not transparent. Let's test this out here. So image, Google search logo. Yeah, it's not. It's got that back. Of course it does. So what we'll do to get this to be transparent, so that because we know the real Google logo, there's no background like that, you can just go to another tool called remove. We can just type into Google remove.bg, the website, remove.bg, background. Upload image, and then you could say Google search logo PNG, and then just upload it. It'll get rid of that background weirdness, and it'll just have Google. And then you click download. You just click preview. That's the free one. 500 by 500 is plenty big enough. And then there we go. Now, well, it should be transparent. So if I go back to my Finder and I say Google, let's get this one right here. Google search logo remove BG preview. Bring that in there. Delete this one out of here. And then if we do this, to make sure it's going to show up right, we'll go to image, Google search logo, remove BG, go back to our design, and there it is. So that's how you can do it. If you don't want to do that, if you're having trouble getting the images, guys, just go to the GitHub repository for this project and download my project code, and then just go into my images, drag my image folder into your project, and just use the images that I already have downloaded. It's up to you, but that's what you need to do. The next thing that you need to grab is just this little leaf down here. See this little leaf in the footer? That's actually an image. It's not a font icon. So you can right click it and save image as, save it as whatever you want, Google Leaf or whatever, and just drag and drop that into your images folder. Or again, I already have it in the project files if you just want to go grab it from my GitHub. All right, guys, so I've got my images. I renamed my images here. So I have the Google logo, I have the footer leaf, and I've got the favicon, which we're already using. So that's all the images we need. Now we can really just start getting to build this thing. We have everything set up. Let's just start building the design out. So we'll make this big. We'll get rid of that bar over there. I'm going to get rid of this image for now. And then we have all these tabs open. We can keep Font Awesome open because we're going to need that, but everything else is going to get closed. So here's ours, here's the original. So we're going to start, from the top down like normal. So we'll build the navigation up here, about, store, Gmail, images, sign in, all that. So let's go into our body. And I'm going to put everything into a container because see how there's like a little margin here and padding on the sides of the Google design, just like every other web page out there. they do that with like something called a container class. So I'm going to say dot container, and it just pretty much helps you set the width of your page. So everything's going to be wrapped in container. And then what we'll do is we'll go to style.css and we'll set up our container. So we'll say dot container. And I'm going to say on this, I'm going to say max width for our design can be 1800 pixels because monitors get super wide nowadays. I myself, I'm on a 32-inch monitor in my office here recording this video, so I know people have really wide monitors. So we'll say 1800 pixels. We'll say width 97%. Actually, I'll make it 98% width, so that'll give us the margin of padding on the sides. I'll say margin 0 auto. That's all we're going to do for now for the container. Now let's build our header navigation area. So let's go back to our HTML, and inside the container we're going to have a header tag. So we'll say header. And then in the header we're going to have a navigation tag. So we're going to say nav. And we're going to give this a class of .top -nav. And then we're going to use Flexbox to flex these on opposite sides, these lists. So we're going to have two separate lists. So the first one will have UL. We'll say, have a class of .top nav menu. Okay. And then they're going to have list items. So the LIs, the list items, this one's going to have a class of .top nav menu li, and then in there's going to be a link, so we'll do an anchor tag, and it's going to have a class of top -nav -link, and then it's not going to have an href because these links aren't going anywhere. We're just making the static page, but our first link over here is about, right? So we're going to say about. Then we can just copy down this li and this anchor tag. And our next little text link is store. So we'll say store. Okay, save. And then this is what we have so far. Okay. And then we have another menu over here that says Gmail, images, this little dots icon, and sign in. So we'll do that other list now. So again, we can pretty much just copy this top nav menu and the li. It's all going to be the same links and everything. It's just we need to separate them with two different ULs so that they can flex side by side. So we'll copy that down. And then in this new list, this is going to say Gmail. We're just going to go in order. So Gmail, and then images. Let's say images. And then see these dots right here? Now, I got some good news and some bad news. Font Awesome doesn't have like an icon for free that mimics the dots like that. Everything, they call it like grip dots, and it's a pro feature. But the good news is I'll show you how to make the dots icon with HTML and CSS only, so we don't need to have an icon. It's not that hard. So we're going to make our own dots icon with just HTML and CSS, and this will teach you how to like solve problems and be, critical think when you have an issue like this. So what I'm going to do is it'll still be an li and an anchor tag because it's going to be a link, so we'll just copy that down. But within the anchor tag, instead of having like text like images, we're going to make something called a dots container. So we're just going to have a div. We're going to say dots container. And then we're going to need, let's see, 1, 2, 3. So 3, 6, 9 little dot looking things here. So we're going to make 9 dot divs. So check this out. We're going to say dot. We're going to have a div with the class of dot. We're going to have 9 of them. So let's do 8 more. So I'm just going to copy this down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Save. Okay, now nothing's going to show up yet because we have to style them, but that's where our dots are going to be. And let's just go ahead and make them before we move on, just so you can get a better understanding of how we're going to do this. So first, let's make our dots like actually appear. So I'm just going to select one of my dot classes. Now it's dot, dot, haha, get it, dot, dot. And then we're going to say, we're going to give them a width of 4 pixels, a height of 4 pixels, a background color of like a darkish gray. It's going to be hashtag 5F6369. Okay, so now we can see it looks like we just have like a bunch, like a pillar, right? But that's because all the dots, each div is like stacked on top of each other right now. We're going to separate them so that they look like dots. And then we'll say, we give them a border radius of 50% to make them little circles. There we go. Now we have a pillar, but now we can see the dots. And then we'll say, I'm going to give it a Z index of like 5 to make sure these dots are always on top of everything, and you'll see why in the future. Now that you can see the dots, let's grab our dots container so that we can actually put them side by side. So let's copy dots container. Let's say dots container. And we're going to say position relative to start. And then we're going to say display grid. And then we're going to say grid template columns. We're going to say we want 3 rows, 4 pixels apart. So we'll say 4 pix, 4 pixels, 4 pixels. See that does? And then we're going to say grid template rows, and we're going to do the same thing. 4 pixels, 4 pixels, 4 pixels. Boom. So that makes them like go in a little square basically, which is what we want. And now we need them to separate out because remember, we're trying to make this and we're getting there, but now we need to give them some space. So to do that, we're going to use something called gap. We're going to say gap 3 pixels. So it basically just gives 3 pixels of padding between each dot all around. So now it looks like that. Okay. Now we're pretty much getting there. We can also give this a width and a height so that it's defined. So we'll say width 18 pixels. Height 18 pixels. Okay. And then that's all we're going to do for now, but that's going to be our dots. So pretty cool how we can do that with just HTML and CSS. So a lot of people might have seen that, and then like especially when I was new, guys, like I was like for sure guilty of this. I would have been like, oh, I can't get that icon. I guess I can't make the design. I quit. Like I was just looking for reasons to quit back in the day. I remember that, and like nowadays I'm like, dude, what an idiot. How stupid was I? But yeah, so there's our little dots icon. Is it identical? No, but does it pass the test on first glance? Yeah, looks fine. It looks legit. Maybe we could maybe make them a little bit thicker, but I think it's good. We're gonna keep it like that. So there's our dots, guys. That's how you can think outside the box, right? Make stuff happen even when you don't have the maybe the easiest tool to do something. So back to our navigation, we have our dots now. What's next? Oh, just the sign in button. So let's go ahead and let's just copy this link and this anchor tag, and we'll go below our dots li, and we'll make this the sign in button. So we'll say sign in, and then we're going to give this sign in button another class of sign in. Sign in -btn. So now we have our sign in link. All right, so let's at least get the desktop menu looking good before we worry about all that mobile stuff. So this is what we have so far, and then this is what it's going to look like. Well, not like that. See, now we're stuck on mobile. Let's do a hard refresh. There we go. All right. So the first thing that we're going to do, we'll go to our CSS, and we're going to go right below the container, and we're going to style the header first. Remember, the header wraps everything pretty much, and we're just going to give that some padding top of 10 pixels to bring all of the links down a little bit like that. Okay. And next, let's select our top nav class and our nav link. So we'll say below header dot top nav, and let's say display flex, align items center, justify content, space between, And then font size of all of the links, it's pretty small. It's just going to be 14 pixels. Save, and then that puts the menus side by side here, spaced out. Let's get rid of those bullet points. Let's say UL. All of our unordered lists, we're going to say list style none. Get rid of the bullets really quick. And then let's grab our top nav menus, which is the actual unordered list, the actual ULs themselves. So we'll say dot top nav menu. And again, we're going to say display flex, align item center, justify content center. Okay, so now all the links are side by side, but they're all scrunched up, so we got to fix that. So to do that, we're going to use something called column gap, and we're going to say 1.3 rem, and that just gives them padding side by side. So there we go. Now all the links are kind of separated. So just with those little couple of styles alone, it's already starting to look like Google. Just got to fix a few things, and there's some on Google when you hover, there's some hover effects on stuff. We got to make our sign on button look like the sign in button. So we'll do that now. Let's first style up our top nav link class. Let's copy this. We'll go below top nav menu. So we'll say dot top nav link, and that's like the actual links themselves. So these actual links, okay. And we'll say color. The color of these is like a darker. It's not completely black, but it's hashtag 1F1F. Whoops. Hex code 1F1F1F. And I get the colors and stuff, guys. I don't just guess. I actually go to the Google homepage. I right-click, inspect. I get our developer tools up. And then I hit my little element selector down here. And then you can just hover over stuff. And look, it tells you the colors 1F, 1F, 1F. Okay? So that's where I'm getting that information from. Next, we want all of our links to have cursor pointer so that it looks like they're clickable, even though they're not going to go anywhere. So we'll say cursor pointer, save. And then now we get the little pointer, just like the real Google. And then we're going to put a transition on all these because there is a little hover effect on them. We're going to say transition all 0.1 second, ease in, and then we'll copy this, put it down here. We're going to put hover pseudo selector on here because when we hover over them, they're just supposed to basically get like the little text decoration underline. See that? Except for these two, but we'll fix those. But yeah, all these are going to get the underline, so we'll just say text decoration underline, and we'll check our links, and now they should have it. And it's going to be on all of them, or on it's going to be on sign in too. We're going to get rid of it on that, but for all these, it's going to stay. Let's go ahead and style our sign in button so it's blue and it looks like that. So let's grab our go down here, our sign in BTN class, and we're going to make this link look like a button. So I'm going to put dot sign in button right here. And I'm going to say first thing, background color is going to be hashtag 0B57D0, like a bluish color. So there it is. You can see it there. And then the color of the text will be white. Give it a width of 85 pixels and a height of 40 pixels. And then we're going to say border radius 100 pixels to make it more round. And you can see that just made it round. And then we're going to say padding 10 pixels up and down, 12 pixels left and right, and that'll make it fatter like that. Now it's really starting to look like the button. Okay. And then you can see now that it's the button isn't really behaving like we want it to because now there's like no padding here. So we can fix that by saying, hey, display inline block so that you don't ignore our padding rules, and then that'll also fix its height and width. And then to center that text again, we'll just say text align center. Okay, so now it's centered back in there. So there's the sign in button. There's Google sign in button. And then we can say text decoration none on this one, so we don't get that underline. Or no, we'll actually put that on the hover, because when we hover over that, it has its own little behavior. I think it's just like a slight box shadow comes on it, and it gets a little bit lighter. Yeah. So let's just do that now. So let's do transition again. And we can just copy this whole thing right here. It's the same. And then we'll do sign in button hover, sign in BTN, hover. And then so on hover, we'll say text decoration none. And then save and check it. There we go. Now that's gone. And then we can say opacity 0.9 to make it go like a little bit lighter color, just like the regular one. See that? And then there's some box shadow that happens there. So I'm going to say, and then we're going to put some slight box shadow on here when we hover. So whenever I do box shadow, I just use online tools to do that, so I can tweak it how I want in real time. So I'm just going to go to Google and type in box shadow generator. I use this one here, this little old school one, box shadow CSS generator. And then what we do here, now you can move these bars and watch your box shadow form live. So I'm just going to try to get this to 0 if I can. It's a little wonky. There's 0, 0, 0, blur radius, and then spread radius. We want this to be like subtle. So maybe something just like that. So I'm just going to copy this first box shadow line here. You can leave out the bottom too. And then we can just paste it in here. Save, and then check our little hover effect now for our sign in button. So if we hover it, there we go. Gets a little bit of box shadow now, very slight. The opacity's there. That's pretty good. Here's our navigation. See how that looks? Here's Google. So maybe we make our container like, instead of 98, 97%, give it more padding on the sides. There we go. And then maybe for our button, because this text still looks a little off, we'll just use display flex for that to flex everything perfect center inside of the blue background. So for that, we can say display flex, align item center, justify content center, and then that centers it much better. Okay, so we'll just use that instead. That looks a lot better. Cool. So that's pretty much it for our desktop navigation for the Google homepage. So it looks pretty good. Let's make ours all the way big. Okay. So you can see our container isn't quite as big, but that's because Google constantly changes their container width on like different screen sizes. But we're just going to leave ours as is for simplicity. It doesn't need to be all the way out here and constantly change with media queries. We're just going to leave it as is. It looks pretty good. Like I said, at first glance, you wouldn't know that you're not on the real Google right now, right? So now we have to make ours mobile so that when we go down to smaller screens, so again, to get that, you have to right click inspect, because Google's buggy. It's not going to show you unless you go to here and then make this is an iPhone 14 Pro, what it would look like. Then you have to do a refresh on the page, and then this is what what it's supposed to look like here. So what we're going to do to achieve this, guys, is we're going to be using a bunch of classes to hide certain links and display them on mobile and whatnot. So it's going to take a little bit of CSS tinkering around, but we'll get it done. So let's leave ours like this, and then we'll right-click inspect, and we'll view ours on an iPhone 4. So really not that different. So what needs to happen now, you can see we're going to have mobile bars, all images. So about and store are going to be completely gone. See, like they flip links around and they switch a bunch of stuff around. And then we have our dots. Now there's a bell there. There wasn't a bell there before. So it's like I said, this changes daily for some reason. And then the sign in button is there. So let's make all that happen. So let's grab our, we need like a little bars icon first. So let's grab that. So let's go to Font Awesome, and we'll type in bars. And I'm just going to grab this little icon here and we'll copy that. And we'll get the bigger version. So I'm going to go to show styling tools. I'm going to say LG. So it gets a little bit larger. The FALG class goes on there, and then I'll copy that. And then on mobile, I think it's the first link, right? So let's actually copy this here. And then within here, then this anchor tag will delete the about. Grab FA solid bars, FA large, paste that in there. There we go. So our bars are there. And again, we're going to make stuff appear and reappear with media queries. Let's just get everything that we're going to need. Let's see. We need to add bars, images. I guess the bell we could add. So let's get a bell logo. So let's say bell. Okay. So we're going to have to use this one. And then same thing, we'll get the LG version of it, copy. And the bell logo goes before the dots in mobile. So here's our dots. Okay, so we'll do this. Copy this down, erase images, put the bell in there. Okay, there we go. So that's all we're going to need. So now we have that, all images on that side. So we need to switch about and all that. So we'll do that though. But we have everything we need. Now we just need to use a little bit of CSS to make this appear as it should on mobile. I wonder if they have a bell that's not solid that we can use. Let's see, bell. Sometimes, oh, so we could use this one. Let's use this one because theirs isn't solid. So let's copy that. Let's just change that really quick. Sometimes you can go up here in Font Awesome and find variations that are actually free. So that's kind of cool. Let's paste that in here. Save. There we go. That looks a lot closer, right? So what we'll do is we'll probably just use a couple of different classes to make stuff appear and reappear depending on the screen, right? So let's make some media. Let's make a media query. So I'm going to say at media, and let's actually time out. Let's make a comment here so we know clearly where the media queries stop and start. So make a CSS comment. To do that, you can hold on Mac command question mark, type a question mark, and you'll get a multi-line CSS comment. And then on Windows, it's CTRL question mark to do the same thing. And then you can just say media queries, right? This is where we make stuff mobile. And then again, at media screen, and I'm a Mac. I use max width for my media queries always. I don't use min width. So we'll say max width 767 pixels and lower. So the reason why I choose 767 is 768 and above is actually where tablets usually start, especially for like Apple's iPad mini starts at 768. So basically this is going to be all mobile devices and lower, 767. It's been that way for a very long time. Most developers, if they're building stuff from scratch, 767 is where their mobile stuff starts. All right, so let's see if we can make this happen. So on mobile, we need about and store to disappear. So let's do that first. So about, so we'll say, we can just give these a simple class of desktop-link so that we know that they only belong in the desktop. So desktop link, let's save. And then so about, you're going to go bye-bye. Store, you're going to go bye-bye. So let's go to our CSS and let's say in this media query, we'll say dot desktop dash link display none. Save, and that gets rid of them. And then likewise, we can make a mobile link that displays none. So let's go down here. Let's say dot mobile link that we'll be using that class on other stuff. So dot mobile link is going to be display none on desktop, and then it'll be display block down here. That's all we're really going to have to do is just use stuff to make stuff display either none or blocked depending on the screen size. Okay. So what else needs to go bye-bye? Anything else? We have Gmail, probably images, right? Oh, images is actually over here on this one. It's on the other side. So that'll be, we'll have to make another images link on that menu. That's fine. So that does mean though that the images over here is going to be a desktop link. So we can go down here, add the desktop link to this one because that's not going to be showing in that area during mobile. Save. So this one just says Bell, so Gmail as well, because it's just Bell, dots, and sign in. So Gmail's got to go away too. So that's just going to be a desktop link. So let's copy that, and then where it says Gmail right here, put desktop link, boom, gone. So this side is set, Bell, dots, sign in. That's pretty well set. And then over here, we just have the bars, which ours looks a little different, whatever. Then it's supposed to say all and images. So let's make those links a reality. So let's just copy this and we'll say copy paste. We'll say all, and it's all in caps. So we'll say all, and then boom, copy that down. This is going to be images in all caps. Images. Kind of weird how it switches to all caps and bold too. It's like so weird. All right, so now these have to have the mobile link class because they're only going to show on mobile. So we'll say, remember we made that mobile link, and right here, mobile link. See that? We're getting there. And then our mobile links could even have like, it looks like they're bold, right? So maybe mobile link, we say font weight 600. Yeah, another bolder. It might even be 700. Let's see. And then they look like they're like a light gray, 636363. So we'll say color, hashtag 636363. Save. There we go. And then the blue, this one's active. So we'll make an active class. So we'll say dot mobile active. And what's the color for that? So let's do our element selector again, hover over it. It's 0B570. So we'll say hashtag 0B5. What was it? 70. Oh, we got to say color. Color. There we go. Save. And now we got to put this mobile active on all. So here's all. Let's say, what did we just call that? Mobile dash active. There you go. See how we just use classes, guys? It's really nice. Like when it might look really confusing in the beginning, but like really all we're doing is you just have to change some classes around to make stuff fit where it's supposed to. That's all. And then if you've watched my tutorials before, if the nav bar is like super drastically different, like when we built Microsoft and when we clone the Microsoft homepage, then sometimes I just end up making all new HTML just for that area, just to make my life a little bit easier. But for something small like this, just rearranging a few things, just making stuff appear and disappear on media queries is easier and better to do. So it really just depends on the project. So the other thing we have to do is there's like this all, it's like underlined. See how it says all, and then there's like this underline here. We'll make that feature too, just to make this more authentic. So we'll go here inside the LI, and then we'll just make an underline. So we'll say, just like a div with the class of underline. So we'll just say dot underline. And again, we'll make this with HTML and CSS. So to do that, let's grab the class we just made, and we will go, where should we put this? I mean, we only really want it in mobile, so maybe just here in the mobile stuff, dot underline. And we'll say background color, same as the link. And let's see what we're doing here. Let's actually look at our page. We'll say width 40 pixels, height 2 pixels. Okay, so now we can see there's an underline there. We'll say margin top 10 pixels. Actually, we're going to use position absolute for that. So let's say text align center. So let's do this. Let's say, did we make that relative? Let's see, we got to make, let's select our top. So top nav menu li. Let's make that position relative just for all of them, or at least for mobile. We'll just say top nav menu li position relative. And now we can use absolute. So let's say position, this is just to get our underline in the correct area where we want it. So we'll say position absolute. And then we'll say bottom minus 20 pixels. And that'll bring it down. And then okay, so it's where we want it. And then we kind of want it centered. So let's do on our top nav menu li, we say display flex. Let's try this. Align items center, justify content center. There we go. And then that forces it. We put it on all of our top nav menu LIs, but what it's really affecting is it's just forcing this to center now. And then that combines, so our position absolute, you can control how much how low the underline is with the bottom. So if we go from 15 to minus 20, or minus 20 to minus 15 rather, it'll bring it up a little bit. So let's see where that is. Yeah, it's probably actually at minus 20. So let's do minus 20. Save. Good enough. We're not going to be exactly dead on, but that's good enough. Let's see what else. I feel like our button is smaller on mobile. Theirs is smaller, so let's do that. Now we're just tweaking what needs to be tweaked here. So let's grab our button class, our sign-in button, and let's go put that down here. Get rid of all this. This is all going to remain the same. Maybe just the padding will be changed. Maybe 8 and 10. 8 pixels, 10 pixels instead to make it a little bit smaller. So I'm just going to say I go with 3570 just to make it a little bit smaller. It looks like theirs is like so much fatter though. How did they do that? 45? It's more like circular and fat. So maybe just 40. All right, we'll keep ours like that just to make it a little bit different. Padding, get rid of that. Let's see, and then they have like weird spacings. Like this is over here, this is further away. All right, so we started here, desktop, go down, 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 down to mobile screens. Okay. And then if we right click inspect, we can test this on some different devices just to see how it's going to look. So if we go to like a Galaxy S8, this is a really small screen. So on really small screens, we actually have to make another media query because it's a little scrunched up. So on really small screens, if we look at Google, there's no bell on 360 pixel screens and smaller. So that's one thing. So let's do this. We could say for the bell, at least, we'll say right here. We can give it another class of mobile-sm for like really small screens. And then we can make another media query. So copy that one, go down here, and we'll say on screens 400 pixels and lower. And then so basically small or older mobile phones, we'll say mobile SM is not going to show. So we'll say dot mobile SM display none, and that should get rid of the bell. And it does. And then what we have to do now is fix probably the column gap is too big now. So let's grab top nav, too much padding on the sides. So we can say top nav gap 0.5 rem. And that brings everything in a lot closer. 0.2. Okay, so that's fixed. Let's keep going here. So then if we get bigger, okay, obviously that's just going to be fine. But we might want that to go out to like justify content. So let's do this. because we don't want it centered like that. Our nav. We want it to be, let's see, top nav. We don't want justify content center until, so let's take this away. Let's cut that, save. Now it'll go back. Now that looks a lot better. So we'll make that pop in at 400 and lower. And now I'm just taking some creative liberties with what I think is best, but that'll be smarter. Because when we go landscape, we don't want it to be centered. We want it to look like that. Okay. I'm better than Google, right? No, I'm just kidding. But look at that. And then so when we get down to really small screens, freaking nothing fits. So on really small screens, so that's 320. Let's see what iPhone 5 is. It's a small. Okay, so 320. So I'm going to make another media query to make this all fit on small screens because there's just too much going on really small screens it's too many like the nav links. So we'll do this. We'll say 350 pixels and lower just to be safe. We'll make all in images disappear as well. So, and maybe we just, we'll keep it like that. So mobile SM, let's put it here. Let's just do mobile. I don't want to make too many different classes. Oh, that's the desktop link, my bad. Where's our mobile images? Right here. Mobile SM. There, we'll just take away that. And then it'll just say all. Let's just do it like that. Make it, keep the code simple. If it goes bigger, yeah, that looks a lot better. Then image just comes back. See that? Again, taking a little bit of creative liberty here, doing what we want, but it's for the best. Just to keep it simple and make it good. So let's just go through some more stuff. So we got BlackBerry Playbook. So we're gonna make a little change, guys, really quick. I'm gonna change. I'm gonna get rid of our container class right now. And then so that way everything's all the way spread. And then we might just say like, just use a little bit of margin on our nav because my links are just spacing weird. I want it to look closer to how Google has theirs. So we might just say on our links, like margin 1 rem, 0 rem top and bottom, 1 rem left and right, and save. And now see, that's pushing everything back to where it looks a little bit better. It's more out here like it should be. See how that looks on mobile? I mean, that looks a lot better on desktop to me. Right click and inspect on mobile. See, and then mobile, we might just say justify space between because that just looks ugly going centered. I don't like that. So let's just do this on our media queries mobile. Where did we change that? Justify content center. Oh no, that's for the didn't we change that somewhere? Yeah, right here. Let's get rid of the justify content. It just doesn't look good to me. Let's do that, and then we can say column gap 1 rem. Okay. I think that's the better way to do that. All right, here, top nav, justify content center. Get rid of that. There we go. That looks a lot cleaner. It's not exact to what Google has, but look at that. That's much better, in my opinion. All right, so back to what we were doing here. 14 Pro. So on 14 Pro, the bigger screens will get the bell, and then on other screens, we won't. That's how they do it. I think. Yeah, see the bells there. See, you have to hard refresh every time to get the freaking design. All right, so let's go through them again. Check different devices. Looks a lot better, guys. Much better. Check our iPhone 5. Okay. Looking clean. Looking good. iPad, it's going to give us the desktop version. Okay. So I think we're good to go here with our nav bar. Let's go ahead and we're good to go with the nav bar. So in the end, we can just do the drag test. Just like that. And it shrinks down. Okay. Perfect. So we can go ahead and move on now. That's really the biggest pain in the butt part of this design. We're out in the clear now. Now we just have to do our little search area, and we're gonna omit this logo and this right here because that's not on the regular Google search area, and then just the footer. So let's go ahead now and start with our search area. So it's just gonna be, and this is really just like a div. This isn't. We're gonna build it like a div with just logos in there, and then the search input and everything will be in there. That's how they do it, and then our little buttons and our little image up here. So let's do the image first. I'm going to go from the top down. So let's go back to our HTML. And then since I decided to kind of ditch the container, at least in this area, we'll just delete this container. We don't need that there. We don't need to wrap that in the container anymore because it's not a thing right now. Okay. And so below our closing header tag, we'll have a section, and we're going to give it a class of search area. And then the first thing that we're going to put in the search area is, of course, the Google logo. So we'll do an image tag with the class of Google logo, or we're going to call it Google search logo, or Google logo image. Let's just do that. Let's say Google logo img. And then we're going to go to our image folder, grab the Google logo PNG, and then for alt text, we can just put Google logo, save, and there it is. It's really big. We got to resize that, but there it is in all its glory. Let's style that up first. So let's grab the Google logo image class, and then we can actually, before we do that, we can make additional comments. So this is all like can go up here. You could say global styles. Copy this comment. And then here's where header nav starts. And then we can even put UL in global styles if we want, because that's all the ULs on the page. And then this can be header / navigation. And then next we'll do the comment out. And down here, it's going to be the search area. Oops. So we'll say search area. And then below that eventually is going to be the footer. So we'll just do that now. We'll put footer. Okay. All right. So let's go below our search area where that code's going to go. And now, again, we'll grab our Google logo image. And first things first, this is way too big. So we got to say, we'll say width. And I think the normal one is 272 pixels on the actual search for Google. Well, again, we're not going to see that today, but that's pretty much how big it is. And then we'll say margin top 1 rem, bring it down a little bit. And then we'll say margin bottom 0.5 rem, where all the search bar stuff is going to happen. And then let's actually grab our search area here, our whole section that it's nested in. And above there, we'll say dot search area. And we're going to say margin 7 rem, top and bottom, auto left and right. And then we're going to say display flex, align items, center, justify content, flex column, or sorry, not justify, we're going to say flex direction column. So flex direction column, and that's going to center everything and then make everything go on top of each other. So image, bar, buttons. That's what the flex direction column's doing for us, along with aligning item centers, centering it in the page. Okay, so you can see now, here's ours, here's theirs. We're getting there. All right, so next we got to make the actual like form area of this. So let's go back to our HTML, and below the image, we'll make a form tag, because this is pretty much a form. Like in real life, it's a form, and when you click on, when you type whatever, you hit enter or you click just in the box, it fires off a submit event, and then it goes and searches for whatever it is that you searched for, right? So we'll say form, and we'll give it a class of, we'll say dot search form. And then we're going to leave the action out because we're not actually making this a full stack app. If you want to know what action and all that stuff does, again, guys, go check out my complete web developer course. I'll teach you how to actually submit forms to a backend like Google does and save data and pull data and all that. And so in the form, we're going to have the following. So let's build this from left to right. It's going to be, and the form, our search form is just going to be this white container. This whole thing looks like an input, but it's not. It's a div, or we're using a form tag to house everything. And then from left to right, there's this icon. Then next to the icon starting here is the actual input field. And then the input field, you can't see it, but it stops, well, right here. So it's only that long. And then it goes to other stuff like icons and this icon. So that's how we're going to build ours. So we need and we'll put this in a button. So we'll say button, and we'll give it a class of icon-btn. And then in there is going to go that magnifying glass right here. So let's grab that from Font Awesome. So let's say search magnifying glass, and it's going to the left. Yes. So we'll say magnifying glass, and I'm going to make it, we'll just go with the standard size. So we'll copy that, paste that in here. Okay, so let's make sure we have, we do. There's our little magnifying glass. And then next is going to be the actual input field area. So let's go below the button, and we'll say input, and we'll give it a class of dot search dash input. And the type is going to be text, of course. That's all we need for the input area. And then next to that, I'm going to have these three buttons, the microphone, this camera looking thing, and AI mode in their own container within here. So I'm going to say dot search icons container, and that's just going to help us flex everything side by side and control where it is. And then within there, we're going to have more buttons. So let's copy this icon button we already made, paste that in, and the first thing is going to be a microphone, this little microphone icon here. So let's go to Font Awesome, and we'll say microphone right here. And then for that, we're going to make this, we're going to select our styling palette here, and we want the large one. We want it to be a little bit bigger. So we'll copy that, and we'll paste that right down here. So we want microphone, and then we want search by image. So for that, we're just going to get a little camera because we're not going to get that exact icon. So we'll say camera, and right here, say camera, and it's going to be FA. Let's see, we want LG, the large one, copy, and then let's copy down this button icon, paste our camera. Okay, so there's that. Camera's there, so getting there. And now for AI mode, we're not gonna get this AI mode fancy looking thing. We're just gonna get, it looks like it's just like a magnifying glass with a star, but there's no icons that exist like that. At least not for free. So if we go to magnifying glass, and we're not going to get anything like that without paying. So what I did is I think I just made mine like I just typed in like a little gears icon or something like that. Or I think it was user gear. We'll just use this one for AI mode. And then same thing, we'll go to the style palette. We'll say LG large. copy. And then what we'll do is below this button, we're going to make this in a container. We're going to say .ai mode container. Paste the icon in here for the gear. Or sorry, we want that in the button. So let's copy it in a button like our other ones. Grab our gear icon again. Okay. Paste that in here. And then we're going to have a paragraph and give that a class of AI-P. And it's going to say AI mode. So we put the AI stuff in its own container because it's going to be like they have it. We're going to see how it's like wrapped in like a gray background and then the icon and the text. That's why we have to put it in yet another container to do that. And we're not going to do the hover effect where it goes rainbow and weird because I don't even know how to do that. I don't want to spend an hour figuring that out. So we'll skip that part, but everything else will be good to go. Let's just do the buttons because they're going to be in the same section. So let's go below our form and we'll make our buttons container. So we'll say .search -btn container, search button container. And we're going to have a button. And we're going to do the Google search and I'm feeling lucky buttons. So we'll say button. And then we're going to give this a class of search-btn. And then this one just says Google search. So Google search. And then if we go down, the next one is the I'm feeling lucky. So you know what I'm feeling lucky does? I actually looked this up. If you click I'm feeling lucky, what that does is if you type like NFL in here and then you just want to go directly to whatever the first result is on the results page without going to the results page, you can skip it, you can click it, and it'll take us to NFL.com because that's going to be the first result on the next page. Does that make sense? So it kind of just skips a step if you click I'm feeling lucky. Actually, I asked AI, like, why the hell does this button still exist? It's pointless. And they just keep it there for like, I guess, nostalgia reasons, but it's still there today and it's always been there. So that's what it does. It just skips a step if you're ever wondering what the hell that does. And then Google search just takes you to a normal search where you get the page of results. So let's do I'm feeling lucky. So we got our HTML down. Let's just style this area up here. So let's get this. Let's grab our, we need to grab the search form. Copy that. We'll select that, start styling that up here. So the search area does have some box shadow around it by default if you look. So again, I use this tool to create box shadow. This is pretty subtle. Let's just copy this, add some box shadow, see what that looks like. Yeah, that's fine. I'll just leave that. A little bit of box shadow. It's not going to be like exactly like Google's, but good enough. So we'll add box shadow there. We'll say we want it to have a border of 1 pixel solid, and the color is going to be E2, 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 like a light gray. And we're going to say padding 0.5 rem. So 1 rem is 16 pixels. So 0.5 would be like 8 pixels, just so you know that's what rems are. I don't think I explained that yet, but I like to use rems instead of pixels sometimes. And then we'll say 1.3 rem left and right. Okay, so now we're starting to form the little div box around there. Before we do anything else, let's actually start putting stuff side by side. So let's say display flex, align items center, justify content, say space between. So that stuff starts going side by side and we can get a better, there we go. Now you can see how everything's starting to form, right? Let's give this some margin top of 1 rem. We're going to give this a fixed width of 675 pixels for the desktop. And when we hover over, so it has box shadow by default, but it might be a little less. So you know what, I'm just gonna put in the box shadow that I have from my other version just to save time. If you want to go in box shadow and tweak it, it's got to be like really subtle. See how this, it's subtle, and then when you hover over it, the box shadow gets more intense. So I want to create that effect. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a transition on this, and then we're just gonna transition the box shadow. So we'll say box shadow 0.1 seconds, ease in. So it's starting, I'm in the desert, but when it rains here, it rains really hard. So if I don't think it is, but if it's coming across the mic, like that light tapping sound in the background, it's a super heavy rainstorm. So we're just going to have to deal with it, guys. Hopefully it doesn't like ruin the recording, but we're going to continue on. So then we'll say dot search form, hover, and then that's where we're going to bring in, we can bring in like that older, more intense box shadow from up here, just to make our life easy. And then of course you can tweak all this stuff on your own if you want, right? If you want to make it super exact. So if we hover now, boom, now we're getting that intense box shadow. Cool, just like the real one. All right, so let's continue on. Oh, and before we move on, we got to add a border radius. So let's go down here below border, say border radius. This has to be obviously like circular or rounded on the side. So we'll say border radius 38 pixels. And now it's looking like the search bar a lot more, right? We're getting there. Okay, so let's grab the search input now. And from now on, guys, it's pretty much smooth sailing. Like we're past all the difficult, annoying parts, so that's nice. So again, let's grab our search input. Say dot search input. For that, we're going to give it a width of just 70% of the bar here. So still a lot of it, but we don't want it going all the way across. And then we're going to say padding 7 pixels top and bottom, 10 pixels left and right. Whoops. Okay. So that now when we click in here, that doesn't start right there. So this is like in the background of the real Google homepage. Like if you highlighted the actual search bar, this is about as big as it would be. And then of course we want to hide the border. So we're going to say border none. But then when we click in it, we're going to get that blue outline. So we don't want that there either. So we're going to say outline none. Okay, so now when we click in there, it's just like the real Google search bar. It'll just have the cursor starting, right? It's like that. All right, what else? Let's style up all of our button classes or all of our button tags. And we don't want them to, by default, we don't want them to have the default background and all that. So we're going to get rid of that. We're going to style them ourselves. So we'll say all buttons by default, background none. We'll take care of that. And then also border none. And then cursor pointer. Okay. So they have the cursor pointer. They don't have those backgrounds anymore, so that fixes that. Next, we'll select our search icons container, and that wraps around all these guys over here. So we'll say dot search icons container, and we'll say display flex, align items center. Then we'll say column gap, so padding left and right, basically 1 rem. Okay. So again, we're getting there, getting better. Let's do all of our icons. So let's say search form. We can actually put this up here. We can say search form I. Our icons shouldn't all be that dark black color. We're gonna give them a lighter grayish color, a color of we'll do hex code 595959. There we go. So they're not so like intense, because the ones for Google are like that lighter gray. And then let's grab our AI mode container now. So AI mode container. Go down here, we'll say dot AI mode container. And for that, we're going to put the paragraph and the icon side by side. So we're going to say display flex, Align items center. Background color is going to be light gray, so it's going to be hashtag F for F 5F6. Okay, there we go. And then we're going to say border radius 38 pixels. And then we're going to say padding 8 pixels top and bottom, 9 pixels left and right. And now they're in that little box, that little gray box, just like the real area. Well, kind of, as close as we're going to get it. What else? So now look, we actually have like a search bar, so that's looking pretty good actually, right? Pretty nice. Let's grab our FA user gear icon so that we can give it some margin. So let's copy that class. And then what we'll do, we'll say padding right 5 pixels just to get it off of AI mode. There we go. Looks got some spacing there now. Okay. That looks a lot better. And then let's make the AIP cursor pointer. So let's grab AIP. So we want this to look like a real clickable link, right? So we'll say .AIP. And we'll say cursor pointer. Okay. Now the whole thing looks like it's just clickable, which is cool. Now let's style up our little Google search and I'm feeling lucky buttons down here. So say search button container. Copy that. Search button container. For that, we're going to first say margin top 1.5 rem. Let's give them some room. Say display flex. Align items center. Justify content center. And then we'll say column gap of 1 rem. Separate them a little bit. And then we'll style up the buttons themselves so they both have the class of search BTN. So we'll grab that. So we'll say .search BTN. And we're going to say background color hashtag F8F9FA. They have it's like a very light gray that you can barely kind of see. We'll say padding 11 pixels top and bottom. 16 pixels left and right. There we go. They have a border radius of 8 pixels. And again, I got all these styles from just using my developer tools, selecting the element thing and just hovering over stuff, guys. This is how you clone stuff. Don't guess. You can just use the developer tools and it'll tell you exactly what they're doing, okay? So just to reiterate, I'm not pulling this out of thin air. That's why my Google looks so close to the real one, because I actually got the real styles for most of it. Anyway, next we're going to say cursor pointer for the buttons. And then the text color inside, we'll say color. It's going to be like a darker gray. It's going to be hashtag 34C4043. Oh, sorry, not 34, just 3C. There we go. And then the font size on that is going to be 14 pixels. And then when we hover over the buttons, I think they get a little bit of shadow on the real page. Let's close out of this. Yeah, they get like a shadow or like a little border almost. So we'll put a transition on there. So let's just say transition all 0.1 second. And then we'll put a hover class on here. Say dot search button. Whoops, not dot. We'll just say search button hover. And we'll say box shadow. And it's going to be very subtle. 0, 1 pixel, 1 pixel. And then we'll do RGBA. And it's going to be 0. It's going to be barely any shadow, but just enough. So 0, 0. 0. And then the last one, the alpha, is going to be 0.1. And then there's also going to be a border that we're going to give. So like we're going to say border 1 pixel, solid, and then hashtag DADCE0. Okay, so there we go. Now if we get that hover effect there, it's like the real ones. Okay. And that's pretty much it for the search area, guys. So Here we are. Again, ours isn't completely identical, and especially again today they have some weird different styling because it's the 27th birthday edition, so it's a little bit different. But when it goes back tomorrow, like, and by the time you build this, it'll probably look identical because I nailed this pretty well, I think. All right, so let's make this. We got to do a couple things to make this mobile responsive. So if we look at how it looks like on mobile phones, it's really just got to fix the widths of some stuff, and I think maybe make a few things disappear. But if we do like a iPhone 12, we really just have to fix the width of our bar. So just to show you what it looks like on theirs. iPhone 12, hard refresh. Okay, so we're going to get rid of the AI mode area in here really, and that's pretty much it. And then fix the width. We'll make this width percentage for the search bar instead of a fixed pixel at 600 plus. So a few changes that we'll make. So let's go into our media queries. So the first thing we're going to select is the search form itself. So right here, we'll go search form, and we're going to go down to 767 and smaller. Say dot search form, and we'll say width. And for that, we'll give it like 95% on smaller screen, so it's not going all the way across like that. Okay. And then let's grab search input class. Say dot search input. For that, we'll say width. Let's see, where is it at? Do we have to change that? We might just want to keep that. We can just make the padding on the smaller, so we'll say 7 pix, 10 pixels. There we go. And then our AI mode container, we're just going to get rid of that completely on mobile. So let's just select that again. Say AI mode container. There's just not enough room for it, right? So we'll say .ai mode container display none. And that makes things look a million times better, right? That's pretty much it, guys. That should make our stuff mobile responsive. Let's go to like really small phones just to make sure, like an S8. And since we use percentages, we should be good to go here. So that's good. Let's see, phone 12. Okay. Phone 5, we're looking good. So we're good. We should be good to go, guys. We'll tweak later on if we have to, but really I think we're ready to move on to the footer, which is super easy to build. So if we look at the Google footer, I'm getting confused. I keep thinking that when I'm on here, I'm on Google, which is a good sign. It means that we did it pretty good. So the footer is just, and we gotta refresh this. The footer is just, 3 link menus, things just side by side, and then they stack on top of each other on mobile is what we'll do. So super easy. So let's go down below our section and just make our footer. And then we're going to have 3 separate little menu areas. So I'm going to make a div in here and call it footer menus container. We'll make a UL. I'm going to call it footer links menu. And then the first one, so we'll do, it's going to have an LI. They're all going to have a class of footer LI. And then in there, we're going to have links, so anchor tag, and those are going to have a class of footer-link. And then we'll get rid of the hrefs, not going anywhere. And the first footer link is going to say, so it's going to be advertising, business, and how search works. Advertising, copy this down twice. Advertising, business, and then how search works. And then the second one is going to be just the leaf image with the whatever the hell it says. Applying AI towards science environment. So copy this menu down. Get rid of these 2 links. And then within the LI, we're going to have our image. We'll give it a class of footer leaf. And it's going to say image, footer leaf. I'm not going to have alt text here because it's really just decoration. And then the text, just copy this text here if I can. Paste it in here. Cool. And then we got to make our leaf smaller, but we'll do that with CSS in a second. And then let's see, privacy terms and settings is the last menu. So again, we can just copy the first menu we did with 3 links, paste it below this one, say privacy terms and settings. So privacy terms and settings. All right, so we should have all the HTML we need. Now we just got to style these menus up and all that good stuff. So first things first, let's go to the footer area and put our footer styles in. So right below our footer comment that we already made, we'll say footer, and we're going to say background color, hashtag F2, F2, F2. And then we're going to give it some padding. We're going to say 1 rem top and bottom, 0 rem left and right. And then we're going to grab our footer containers menu, or footer menus container, whatever we called it here. Footer menus container. I'm going to say display, flex, align items center, and then justify content, space between. Okay, so now if we look at it, boom, looking better. And then we can give some margin, 0 rem, top and bottom, 1 rem left and right here so that they've got a little bit of padding off the sides, our links. And then actually we might want to hold off on that for now. We'll give that to the links themselves. So let's select our footer links menu now and put those side by side with all of our links. So we'll say dot footer links menu, display flex, align items center, justify content center. Okay, there we go. And then let's grab all of our footer links. So dot footer link, and I'm gonna say font size 14 pixels for all of them, make them a little bit smaller. And I'm gonna say margin, 0 rem top and bottom, 1 rem left and right. See how that looks better. Now let's make this leaf smaller. So let's grab our footer leaf. Say dot footer leaf. I'm going to say width. It's pretty small, so I'm going to say like 12 pixels. And there we go. There's our footer. Oh, sorry, there's their footer. Here's our footer. Okay. And then we got to push our footer down to the bottom. I'll show you how to do that. But first, I want to make it so when we hover, we get the, whatchamacallit, text decoration, just like the top links up here. So let's do that. So first, let's say cursor pointer on all of our links. And then we'll say transition, all 0.1 second, ease in. And then we'll say footer link, hover, text decoration, what is it, underline. Now we got that going for us like the regular one. And now to push the footer to the bottom, it's going to be really easy. If we go up to our body, what we're going to do is we're going to make it a flex container. So check this out. We're going to say, and this is a cool trick that you can use whenever you got to push your footer to the bottom on smaller pages. So we're going to say height 100%, margin 0, display flex, flex direction column, min height 100 VH. Okay. And then what we'll do after that is we can just wrap. We'll bring our container class back and we'll say dot container, but not for the purpose that we had before, but we'll wrap everything in the container right below the body. and then make our closing div here above the body. And then we'll just say dot container, and we'll just give it the property of flex1, which means, hey, whole body, take up all available space for this page. And then we'll save. And then what we have to do now is we're actually going to move the footer out of the container so that the container pushes down on this. So to push it to the bottom. So put the closing div for the container above the footer, save, and now it'll force it down. Okay? Now it's always going to be at the bottom of the page with that code. So again, feel free to use that. That's a cool little like cheat code to always push your footers to the bottom. And now look at our design, guys. Like, this is very close to Google. Like, this is almost identical. This is amazing. Again, ignore that image. It'll be gone tomorrow. But as far as like where the elements are placed and how everything looks, very, very close. If you open this up for your friend or your grandma or your mom and said, hey, look, it's Google Go, they would probably not even think twice and try to start searching for stuff, right? Let's just add a couple mobile styles so that our menu stacks like it's supposed to on mobile. See how there's stacks? So we'll do that here. That's what we want. Not hard. A couple more styles. We're almost done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to my media queries, and I'm going to make one more. I'm going to copy this and make a bigger media query for 950 pixels and smaller, because I want my footer stuff to start stacking around that size where it's like mobile phone landscape and really smaller tablets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my footer menus container. We're going to modify a few things here, because this is where the footer starts breaking from my experience. And you can already see here, it's already starting to break around this is like 950 around like right here. It's probably like right here, but it's just getting too close together. So we're going to start our styles, okay? So we're going to say flex direction is going to switch to column. So stuff stacks like that. And then we're going to say flex wrap. And then we're going to say row gap, which is padding top and bottom of 1 rem. So that stuff starts to separate. See that? Those 3 styles just pretty much fixed our menu like a lot. The only thing that I need to check now is like really small screens for mobile. See how it gets a little wonky. So what we'll do is we'll say, let's go down to our 400 pixel and lower. And we'll make we'll say our footer LIs. We're going to make sure that they're always text aligned center. So that'll fix that link really. And then we can make the font a little bit smaller. So we can say, see footer link. Say dot footer link. Font size 12 pixels. So that stuff fits in a little bit better on these smaller screens. And that looks a lot better. I think that's really it. Like that should be all we have to do to make the footer look legit on all screens. So let's just go through a few devices here. And it looks pretty good. Let's go through a Pixel 4 bigger screen. Should be good to go, guys. Yeah. 6, 7, 8. So we're good. We should be good. This should be like the full design. We'll just keep looking at it on a few devices here. Make sure we don't have any like huge mistakes that we made. Don't think we did. So I think I'm going to call this one, guys. Nice job. See how it looks on the new iPhone. Looks great. We're going to call this a project, guys. So very nice job. If you're still here, thank you for watching. Check out if you need help or if you want the completed code. Again, check that link in the description. Again, don't forget to check out the complete web developer course. If you need help, if you keep watching tutorial after tutorial and you want to figure out how to be a developer, how to solve problems on your own, how to be a full stack developer, make money as soon as possible, check out my project-based full stack course again in the description, guys. Check out the link. Also, check out my practical web dev roadmap. That's completely for free in the link below in the description. Download that. At the very least, that'll save months off of your journey. I do promise you that. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next video.